The following video will be concerning two separate subjects that should have never connected. And here we go. October 23rd, 2014, not the current year, more than 6 years ago. You might want to do some math here. Petro Poroshenko was at the Odessa Opera Theater giving a speech concerning many subjects, but at one point he came around to the present situation in 2014 while in Odessa, talking about pro-Russian militant occupation of the Donbass area and the Donbass people, claiming they would be hiding in cellars and suffering without pensions. And this quote is taken out of context because there's an hour and some odd minute long video to give you context below, and it ends in POJG. The short soundbite version was used by Sputnik and other propaganda websites. When people started correcting them, they just started making the video not able to have comments on. And a certain person calling themselves a person who should know better, a person who is claiming to be a journalist and a documentarian at the Sorbonne, used this clip deceitfully. The quote you might read is, "We will have jobs, they will not. We will have pensions, they will not. We will have support of children and pensioners, they will not. Our children will go to kindergartens and schools, theirs will be sitting in cellars." This is around the time of the Crimea invasion or Donbass civil war or the annexation of Crimea by Russia. Both sides. Okay. A proxy war is when a couple of superpowers argue over a hunk of dirt that they want control over, or they want to help one side or another to win, instead of both sides saying, we're staying out of this so that we don't make this worse. I mean, you can say that about our current situation. You can say that about every single war where Russia has funded the side that seemed to do really terrible things to a population. And that will be claimed about the United States. But this is in 2014, it's October, and it's Petro Poroshenko in Odessa talking to people about consequences of, again, pro-Russian militants occupying the Donbass people and the methods that were in use at the time to prevent that occupation by essentially Russians who were crossing the border and directly acting on this from being able to have this effect. Now remember, there are American citizens who are now rushing to the same conflict these days. But it's a little different when you have to cross an ocean to get there. The Russians literally just violated the border rules. That's a little bit different. That's more like an actual invasion or a secret proxy war or a direct war that's unannounced. And remember, Russia spent months this year, the current year, calling it a special operation and refusing to admit they were invading a country when they really are. It's an invasion, unless you are really trying hard not to understand it that way. And I want to point out, right-wingers in the United States and all over the world bow down to authoritarianism and would rather rationalize away interfering with them. And other side would rather rationalize ways of interfering with what I would call authoritarians and despots. That's my bias. Let's go on. In 2016, there was a claim of Russia or the Ukraine killing Ukrainians more often than not. A claim included a statement of a specific number of people killed by the Ukrainian government that were their own people. The number that was thrown around by a person irresponsibly was the total number of people killed or injured combined from both sides, which was acknowledged by both sides. This individual decided to blame all of it on the Ukraine and say it was deliberate, even though that didn't make sense. And again, this journalist I'm now moving on to went out of her way to put the soundbite out of context into it. And yes, you can go look at the original recording. Again, it ends in POJG to the time marker stamp or even before it. Put it in context and turn on translations or translations from Russian to English or whatever your language is, and you can get a fairly good idea of what the person's saying. French Sorbonne lecturer, documentary filmmaker, journalist, Laure Bonnel, or Anne Laure Bonnel, is a person making a set of claims. Claims the Ukrainian army killed their own people in pro-Russia Donbass in a documentary. And that YouTube banned the video recording she put up, her documentary. Even though the one she uploaded May 18th, 2022 is still up and has always been. There are now many, many copies. Just claim you're being suppressed and it will be let up there. Meanwhile, when you try to look up her name, there was a Wikipedia article. She's been banned from Twitter for reasons. Let's look at what you got here. There's also a blank March 2022 YouTube channel that also re-uploaded it on March 5th, 2022 and gets more views. But her video wasn't taken down and does not be censored. In fact, it doesn't even have a warning in front of it. So it's not being suppressed. So claim number one, it's being suppressed, is not true. She claims a position teaching news media coverage issues and writing of documentary films at 3 location statements. She says generally the Sorbonne. She also says specifically, when you get it nailed down and look at her, I guess her LinkedIn might be more explicit, Institut National d'Audiovisuel, the National Institute of Audiovisual Recordings. Anyway, it's a repository of all French radio and television audiovisual archives from 1975 forward. It may or may not offer teaching, but it is not considered part of the Sorbonne. Another one called the École Supérieure de Journalisme de Paris, the Superior School of Journalism of Paris. I want to do the Superior dance. This was established in 1899, and it's a teaching environment. But it's not necessarily the Sorbonne either. Saying, I teach at the Sorbonne is an extreme feather in a person's cap. Too bad it's turkey feathers. Now, that claim isn't actually a lie. Technically, she might have taught, but she is not providing a CV that I can go trace. In fact, this journalist doesn't seem to have existed before. Well, let's talk. Prior to the Ukrainian invasion, the only postings about her, substantial, checkable ones, that anyone can find on Wikipedia that were being removed, quote-unquote, when I translated it from French, deleted by request of the subject, meaning she requested some of this be taken down. Okay, I don't know. Maybe it was the person who did the interview with her, but there's an interview with her in Elle magazine, and her other video documentary film, Silence dans la Haute-Karabakh. I can't pronounce it correctly, sorry. This is about the 2020 Armenian-Azerbaijan conflict. This is reposted, or was mostly hosted, or only for Valeurs Actuelles, a far-right magazine in France. So, and that's not claimed by her on any web page anymore, except very recently, because people pointed it out. In total, she has now, officially, because the others have been retracted, by request of the author. Again, why is this happening? That would mean she did it. 1 credit each for acting, writing, directing, cinematography, and crew, only for a supposed 2016 Donbass documentary, which is what we're talking about here. It has 7 reviews, glowing reviews of her work on IMDb. And they are so over the top, batshit crazy looking, astroturfed. It's amazing. They are truly over the top on purpose. She's also been featured on RT, Russia Today, aka Russia propaganda channels. She says what they want to hear. March 2022, mainstream media and the WEF officials accused her of relaying propaganda instead of doing actual news work in her coverage of the Donbass region conflict and her French conservative and her being on a French conservative 24-hour news channel, CNews, in a vid that was flagged as fake due to misrepresentations and misleading statements on the number of deaths and casualties, since she used the entire death toll and injury toll on all sides, both Russian-caused and Ukrainian-caused, as only being the fault of Ukrainian authorities. Now, I suppose under some rationalizations, that makes sense. It is, however, factually not true. It is a lie at that point. The total 13,000 total death at that moment that she made the assertion was for the total conflict up to that point. Not just the Ukrainians that were in the Donbass region that are supposed to be being attacked by the Ukrainian government. The denazification. She also plays up that actual denazification meme about it. So let's get this real quick. She makes a claim of being at the Sorbonne or teaching at the Sorbonne or being associated with the Sorbonne, but cites two sources that are two things that aren't necessarily really the Sorbonne. She made a claim about a Petro Poroshenko, in essence, of her just reposting a Sputnik conspiracy theory propaganda soundbite taken out of context on purpose. I've actually lost her. Let's continue. Oh, and she's only really accredited for this one thing now because the previous one apparently is either not up or it was requested to be taken down. And I don't know, maybe the LA magazine thing is still up. Mainstream media and the WEF officials, March 2022, accused her of doing basically nothing but propaganda spewing. Okay. Laure Bonnel Reporter YouTube channel was created 2011, October 9th. And the vid is still up. And it was not suppressed. And it doesn't even have a warning. If it was taken down, it would have been content ID flagged. And then, if they see something that looks like it's a derivative, like she has English language, it's packaged for Americans to read. Why would the French be reading it? Might want to look at what the French did very recently concerning this war. They didn't take it down, but they would have put a warning up that said this is controversial or warning this is for adults only. And that was, again, that's been up for a while. Her Facebook page was created December 18th, 2020. Now, the rest of the stuff below are going to be her French language LinkedIn page, the completely erased Wikipedia page that said she isn't of any interest. She's only existed just recently, and everything she's done before this is claims, including calling into question whether or not she has anything to do with the Sorbonne, or she teaches, because she didn't... Anyway, besides the LinkedIn page and on archive.org and archive.today, we also have her Twitter, which is age-restricted adult content as of 2020. That's when it was made. Instagram, two of them. One of them appears to be dead. One of them on Facebook that basically the French equivalent to go out and do something. I can't translate it. And then she has a YouTube channel called Laure Bonnel Reporter. That's the major one. And that's about it. I was able to confirm the time when that person made that statement in 2014, October. And she's the journalist who's supposed to provide citations. Not one time and date stamp, not even that it was in Odessa. She literally did everything you don't do if you're to be taken seriously as a journalist or a documentary source. She didn't even properly citation it so that it could be taken down due to improper citation if it was a work in academia. If I was teaching a college course, which she seems to claim she does, I would simply demand that she do her work over again. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck.